Hi, now today we're looking at orders of magnitude. It doesn't matter if you're in year 9, 10, 11, 12 or 13, this lesson relates to you. Now clearly in biology there's not much sense in measuring things in terms of a metre. We don't even really use centimetres. In fact, centimetres are the bad boys in biology. We don't want them. Whenever we see something measured in centimetres, we're going to convert it straight away to millimetres, and then from millimetres we can jump into micrometres or nanometres. So what are these measurements? Well, you will know from primary school that 1 metre is 100 centimetres or 1,000 millimetres, okay? So in other words, 1 metre equals 1,000 millimetres, or we can write that as 1 metre times 10 to the minus 3, okay? So what we're then going to do is we're going to look at the next scale down that we want to use in biology, which is millimetres. The next scale below that is micrometres, and the next scale below that is nanometres. So if millimetres is 1 metre times 10 to the minus 3, a micrometre is 1 metre times 10 to the minus 6. A nanometre is 1 metre times 10 to the minus 9. Now what's so great about this is it's a factor of 1,000, a factor of 1,000 to a factor of 1,000. So we're just moving the decimal point 3 times each time. And that's why we don't want centimetres, because centimetres is a factor of 10 away from a millimetre. So let's look at some examples and then it'll make more sense. If we're moving from a metre into a millimetre, millimetres are smaller units and therefore you're going to have more of them. So we're going to times our number by 1,000. If we're moving from millimetres into micrometres, we're moving to a smaller measurement again. So the number will get bigger because you'll have more of them. So we're going to times it by 1,000. And likewise when we move to nanometres. If you're moving from millimetres into metres, you're moving from a very small measurement into a big one. So therefore you're going to have less of them, so we would divide by 1,000. So let's have a little look at some examples and then hopefully it makes more sense. If we had 3.2 millimetres and we want to change that to micrometres, then what we're going to do is we're moving it to a smaller unit. So we're going to have more of them, so we're going to have a bigger number. So for me then, what I do is I would go 3.2, I'd stick some zeros on, and then I'd think, right, I need to move that decimal point 3 times now. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. So that would be the answer. If I wanted to move from 42 micrometres to millimetres, then basically what I'm going to do is I'm moving from a smaller to a larger unit. So the number is going to get smaller. I would stick some zeros in front of it and I'd think, okay, my decimal point is there. I'm going to move it 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. So my answer is 0.042 micrometres. Let's have a look at some more examples. If I had a number like 1.2 centimetres and I needed to convert that into micrometres. Remember, the centimetres are the bad boys of biology. We don't want them. Straight away, we're going to change that to millimetres. And then it's easy jumps. So 1.2 centimetres is 12 millimetres. To move it into micrometres, I'm moving to a smaller scale of measurement, so I'm going to have more of them. So the number's going to get bigger. So I know I'm going to put a 12, I'm going to put some zeros, and then I'm going to move my decimal point. 1, 2, and 3. So 12 millimetres becomes 12,000 micrometres. So what's the take-home message? The take-home message is meters and centimetres are no good for us in biology because most of the things we want to measure are very, very small. Sometimes you might come across a centimetre. First thing to do, change it into millimetres. Especially when we're looking at magnification questions, we're then moving from millimetres to micrometers, possibly to nanometers. It's always a factor of 1,000. If you're moving from a large unit, such as a metre, down to millimetres, then clearly you're going to have more millimetres in your answer. Your number's going to get bigger. Chuck your zeros on there and then move the decimal point. If you're moving from a small unit into a larger unit, which pretty much isn't done in biology, then what you're going to do is you're going to have less of them and you're going to move your decimal point the other way. Hope that makes sense. Look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.